Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to today's video all about building the muscle. This is a pound of muscle. And on the board behind me, I've got 5 key strategies that I'm gonna break down and share with you on how we can grow this. So with that being said, let's dive right into it. So in my last video, I looked at how best to burn fat. This video is all about building the muscle. So let's jump right into it. On the whiteboard here, I've got 5 main points that I'm gonna work my way through. But I wanna start by saying there's many different thoughts to weight training. Many people have different approaches, different training styles. This is pulled from my own experience over 20 years of competing, being in the fitness industry, and mainly just needing to keep a lean physique year-round for the type of work I do. So all of this is based on everything that I've learned, studied, and applied myself over the past 20 years. And I'm also aware that there are different techniques and training styles out there. So with that being said, let's start on the first one. Overload principle. If you haven't heard this term before, pay attention, because this is perhaps the single most important thing that you should be doing within your workouts. What the overload principle states is that muscles need a resistance to work against in order for them to change, to adapt. Without that stimuli, there's no adaptation response. And if there's no adaptation response, you're not really changing. If you think about it, change comes from having to overcome something. So we're looking at increasing stress on the muscle, not necessarily through every single rep or every exercise, but certainly early on in the workout. Think of it like this. If you're driving a manual or a stick shift car and you want to go as fast as you can, you've got to go through the gears first. Accelerate, and you're shifting gears. That's kind of how I think about it within weight training. So let's take the bench press as an example. You want to start off with some mobility and warm up and get into the biggest, heaviest exercise early on in the workout when you're at your freshest, you've got the most energy, and more importantly, your muscles have the most energy stored within them. Now, you don't just put the heaviest weight on that barbell and try and lift your 1 rep max straight away. You've got to kind of work through 1 or 2 warm-up sets and then progress up to the heaviest weight, usually by the 3rd, maybe the 4th main working set, and that includes 1 or 2 warm-up sets too. On that final working set, when you're trying to lift the heaviest weight you can for a rep range of, I'd say, no fewer than 8 and no more than 12, so somewhere between 8 and 12, you want to be hitting muscle failure. Now, there's a difference between fatigue and failure. Fatigue is, let's say you go out for a run, you're running for 3, 4, 5 miles, your muscles start to fatigue, you're starting to tire. Failure is different in the sense that your muscles can no longer maintain that same stress or the resistance upon it for much longer. So if you're aiming for 10 reps, you reach muscle failure on that 9th or 10th rep, you're unable to then complete the 11th or 12th rep. So muscle failure, not muscle fatigue. Best way to do this is to incorporate a shock technique. And I've also got a video on that addressing 10 of the most common and most effective shocking principles, which you can find more for that video within the link below. That needs to be the number 1 principle. The second one, resistance training equals stress. Now, what I'm talking about here is every set that you do, every exercise that you perform, there needs to be a stress on the muscle. I'm not just talking about achieving 10 reps, resting, getting back on to that exercise and doing another 10 reps. There has to be a constant sort of uphill struggle. Now, this doesn't always mean adding more weight. Yes, we do want to lift the heaviest weight that you can lift, but if we look at this chart here, you don't have unlimited energy for the workout. You know, do a bit of a mobility warm-up, maybe a few stretches, maybe even a little bit of cardio. I'll get onto that next. But you want to start out with the biggest, heaviest, strongest exercises first, knowing that as your energy then starts to decline, you still want to be lifting heavy weights, but you're not going to have the same strength as you did in the earlier stages of the workout. So really what I'm talking about with stress is making sure that there's some resistance always against that muscle. And that's where these training principles come in. Whether it's a drop set, an assisted spot, a circuit, a superset, something that will allow you to keep the intensity high on the muscle, even if it's not the heaviest weight that you can lift. Number 3, workout structure. So let's put this into a sort of a real life situation with chest. This is what this chart up here relates to. We've got effort on the y-axis and time on the x-axis. Look, I'm usually in and out of the gym in about an hour. People might think, oh, you work out all the time, you're always in the gym. No, I'm in the gym maybe 1 hour out of 24 hours, and you'll see later on, it's not every day of the week, mainly just 4 or 5 days. So, example, chest. You want to put some effort into warming up the muscle. I'm not talking about getting on a cardio bike or getting on a rower for 10 minutes. I'm talking about warming up the muscle. Same analogy with the car. You get into a nice fast car, you don't immediately start the engine and get up to top speed. You've got to warm the engine up first. That's what I'm referring to here. So some simple mobility type movements, resistance bands work great for that. And by warm up, I'm really talking about performing the exercises that you're going to be doing within that workout, but just with a lighter weight. So the warm up might take 10 minutes, 12, 15 at most, and I might perform a light circuit of dumbbell flies, dumbbell presses, even push-ups. Not to the point where I'm reaching muscle failure, but just enough where I can get some blood pulled into that muscle area so that when I start to go heavy, my muscles are full with blood, oxygen, and nutrients, fuel for the muscle. So that's why the warm-up and mobility is key. Also mobility, we're talking about multi-joint exercises, our shoulders, elbows, hips, knees, ankles, depending on if we're doing a lower body workout. So we want to really warm these up. This could be something as simple as performing some arm circumduction rotations, using some resistance bands to apply some resistance against that muscle. Again, not really exercises per se, but you want to spend a good 10 minutes really warming up that muscle. Compound multi-joint exercises. Now what I'm referring to here is really getting the biggest, heaviest amount of weight or stress on the muscle early on in the workout. Speaking of bench press, let me divert your attention over to this chart here. This is known as the 5% rule. I'm sure you've heard it in some other term. I'm calling it the 5% because essentially, if we're looking at the overload principle, let's say you've started out a couple of months of weight training and you've got 135 pounds doing a bench press, you're failing at that 9th or 10th rep, you want to get bigger, you want to be able to lift more weight. What's the most effective and safest and practical way to go about doing that? Well, if in week 1, you're maxing out at 135 pounds for 10 reps and you add 5%, so 5% of 135 onto that bar for your final heaviest working set. Okay, look, you might not get 10 reps, you might only get 6 or 7, but you've lifted heavier weight. It's only 5% as well, it's not a huge jump. We're talking about 6 pounds. 6 pounds extra on top of 135, you're gonna get at least a few reps. Now, if you continue with that same principle of adding around 5% to your heaviest exercise early on, again, this doesn't apply to every single exercise throughout the entire workout. This is maybe 1 or 2 sets for the biggest, heaviest exercise that you can do. Over the course of 10 weeks, if you were to continue to add just 5% to the heaviest weight that you can lift, this amounts over 10 weeks to a 55% increase. So you go from 135 pounds, maxing out at around 10 reps, but you're committed to continually adding 5% each week and building those reps back up. Within 10 weeks, theoretically, you could be at 209 pounds. So you don't think that 135 pounds being your maximum weight, and then 10 weeks go by, 209 pounds now for 10 reps, you don't think you're gonna add some muscle to that frame? This is how you do it. Small increments over time, but being committed to continually trying to push for heavier weight. Again, smart training, we're doing this safe, we're doing it effectively, and we want results that last. We've got our bench press, energy's starting to dwindle, so now I start to move on to machines. And I think of machines as being fixed range of motion. What I'm getting at with this is I don't have to stabilize the barbell or the dumbbells, which, as I'm sure you know, can take a lot of effort, especially if you're having to get those dumbbells or barbell up on your own. We've already reached failure up at the top. So now I'm just looking at ways to increase intensity still on that muscle and work it from a magnitude of different angles and variety. So machine, fixed range, I might do a couple of machine presses, maybe a machine fly. This is great because I'm still able to keep maximum tension on that muscle without the need to stabilize the weight. And then from there, I'll move on to cables, maybe some body weight, and eventually cool down and some light stretching or some mobility work again. So you can see maybe halfway through the workout, my energy is really starting to drop off. That's where I'll focus on using some of those shocking principles to pull them in. Again, drop sets, strip sets, circuits, ways that I can keep stress high on the muscle without necessarily needing to overload it all the time. Okay, let's continue moving on. 4 weekly structure. This is how I plan out my week's workout. And it's to do with optimizing each muscle to be able to lift the heaviest weight and also allowing about 2 to 3 days rest or 72 hours for maximal recovery before I'm then really working that muscle again. Recovery is huge because our muscles, whilst they've got that stress, need that time to recuperate, recover, basically rebuild themselves where they've been damaged, those micro tears that we're getting from the weight training, in order for us to come back a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, and continue with increasing that weight. So check this out. Monday, chest and triceps. Bit of a no-brainer, and we can reorganize this any way we want, but chest, upper front body, and some triceps. The next day, hamstrings, back of the legs, and calves. Not even touching my upper body now, so they're still resting. Wednesday, complete rest. So again, my upper body and now my lower body have an extra day of rest. Thursday, back and biceps. So I'm back with the upper body, but I'm the rear of the upper body and the biceps. Yes, my chest and triceps are still gonna be in play. They're the opposing muscle, but 1, 2, 3, they've had 3 days of rest, so they're ready for that. Friday, quads and calves. So again, I'm going back down to the lower body, hitting the front of the upper legs and some calves as well. Saturday, I'm gonna focus on the shoulders as its own muscle group. Hit some forearms as well. So calves, forearms, these are smaller muscle groups that I still wanna focus on within that workout. And then Sunday, a complete rest day again. You can also see at the top, I've included types of cardio and I'm also hitting abdominals. That's because I'll never do weight training and cardio at the same time. Different energy systems. I don't wanna tire my muscles out, and I also don't wanna have a full weight training session and then feel the need to go and do cardio. It's not as beneficial as if you're able to separate it. If you're not able to, do the cardio at the end. Focus on muscle training first and foremost, and then cardio comes after that. I've also included abs there. So within a week, and this is a pretty accurate week for me, I'm hitting every major muscle group at least once, which means I can really focus on this sort of example for the workout. I'm including low intensity, steady state cardio and hit high intensity interval training and some abs there. So I'm hitting all the muscle groups within that week and allowing for maximal recovery during that time. And then number 5 here, enjoyable equals consistency. I put that there because at the end of the day, none of this matters if you're unable to continue to do it. If you don't enjoy it, the type of training that you're doing, that you think you're gonna get results, it doesn't matter because you're not gonna stick with it. So if you follow this similar approach to weight training, or if you like more of a circuit-based or a push-pull or a CrossFit, or whatever kind of resistance training that you find enjoyable, ultimately that's gonna be what's gonna deliver results. The consistency of you doing it. And not just the consistency, but the progressive overload, that chase for always increasing the weight. And I'll leave you with this. If you're not leaving the gym feeling like it's been intense, feeling like you pushed yourself, you know that your muscles are gonna be sore the next day or two after, you gotta ask yourself, have you really committed your all to your workouts? Again, not every workout needs to be that level 10, but if a couple of weeks or months go past and you're thinking, have I increased the weight at all? Have I changed the type of exercise? Am I just going through the motions in the gym? Then chances are you're not seeing the results. So take a look at this, see what you need to do to incorporate into your routine, put it into action, and again, check the link in this video description. I've got a free download guide. It covers all of this, including the burning the fat, as well as nutrition, cardio, stretch, and just having the right mindset to be able to get into the gym, put in the work, and get the results that you want. Hey, do me a favor. If you enjoyed this video, share it with a friend, post it on your social media, comment below. I do my best to answer all of them that I can, but I enjoy doing these videos, putting the information out there, and just trying to share some value that I found useful throughout my years of training. So thank you for watching. Like I said, go put it into play and let me know how it works out for you. All right, I'll catch you back here on the next one. Take care.